You do not have the right to determine others' needs. I was reminded of this yesterday when I got an email from someone. First of all, that I had specified was not to use my email for anything other than business purposes. He broke that boundary, so right away my senses were jangling. He had sent me a message saying he had learned through social media that I lived in Toronto, so he said I should call his friend in Toronto because he felt that she and I would make suitable friends. For someone living in California, I was wondering how he could assess at such a long distance, also with never having met me or maybe even her for that matter, that we would make such good acquaintance. I sensed he had an undisclosed agenda, and this man is a minister for a religious organization, so I assume this woman is either the same for her local chapter, or that she is in fact a devotee. How coincidental is that I seem so similar to another woman that he knows who lives near me. Not a woman in California, or China, or Kalamazoo even, no, just right where he thought I was living. When someone breaks a boundary and then comes up with a proposition for you, be very suspicious. This is a liar and boundary violator, and how game should you be to jump on any proposition they have for you? When people break my boundaries at the start, I'm always suspicious afterwards. In fact, this is manipulative behavior on his part. Not disclosing the reason why he thinks that I should contact another person while not disclosing his reason for doing so, is devious. Lying by omission is lying. Were he to say that he was attempting to get me to join his religious organization, he would have gotten a big fat no at the onset, and I would have blocked him, as I know these recruiters can be particularly persistent once they get what they think is a lead. The super at my apartment is on a similar quest with me. Circumstances like this I tend to bin right away. I am in charge of who I make friends with. As a matter of fact, I am in charge of my total life process, and whether it appears lacking to anyone is frankly none of their business. What's more, he hasn't got his facts straight, so he doesn't know much about me or what would be suitable for me when you consider I don't even live in Toronto anymore. I live 4 hours away by car, and a visit would require an overnight stay. In Canada you don't just drive anywhere, it's too big. It's like telling a New Yorker to drive to Georgia and make it home for dinner. I believe in his haste to put his own agenda forward he has overlooked details or not bothered to find out enough to consider appropriate suitability. Had he explored enough, he would have found out that driving to Toronto and staying overnight would cost me money I don't currently have. On top of that, were I to go in that direction, my preference would be to continue on to my sister's house, who lives only an hour and a half further. This is what happens when people are insincere about what they're doing. If he really cared, he would have checked his proposal out with me further, but he didn't. This is how you tell who's sincere from those who aren't. Why should I meet his friends in Toronto when I have plenty of my own there that I already know? It just doesn't make sense at all. Make sure you do the math, things don't always add up. If it smells off, don't take the bite. But I love when things like this happen because I can pass on the lesson to you. Is there a possibility that this is simply an innocent act on his part, one of trying to find suitable friends for perhaps a lonely woman in Toronto? Sure, it could very well be. But if she wants friends, she should try to make her own rather than allowing her friends in California to meddle in her business. This man is not one to let others be who they are and resolve their own problems. He's what I call a meddler, and he's codependent. In fact, if he feels she should make friends to help her loneliness, he should be discussing it with her rather than with me. What he's doing in fact is triangulating, which is an unhealthy, dysfunctional way of relating to others. We are all on our own spiritual paths with higher guidance directing us all the time. As it happens, I had a bad day with codependents who'd misused my email for personal purposes yesterday, but after I slept on it I realized I had developed, from that negative experience, a brilliant idea for a new book. So sometimes good does come out of bad. It's a question of how you use it. You can let it defeat you or rise out of the ashes, as the expression goes.